Despite the negative effect of the pandemic, one of the businesses that was able to rise to the challenge and even thrive was Amazon. Jeff Bezos' company was able to increase in size and workforce, which made it outstanding, but there were issues as well. In this video, we will give you a detailed analysis of all that happened inside Amazon's employment machine and how the virus exposed a number of issues. It is fair to say that the COVID-19 virus destroyed so many businesses and brought havoc on almost every national economy you can think of. However, companies like Amazon saw a rise in share and market value in 2020. As a direct consequence of an increase in the demand for its services, Amazon US increased its workforce by an additional 500,000 workers. By the end of 2020, it had more than 1.3 million employees. Employing so many people within a short time was a logical move to make, since the demand for delivery services increased as most people could not go out to shop. However, the question on the lips of observers was how Amazon planned to retain the workers it had hired once life got back to normal and people could go back to their former lives. The answer to this question remained elusive until New York Times published an investigative article that exposed the inner workings of Amazon's employment machine and how workers were made to work under the harshest of conditions in order to meet up with set targets. For a company that has long touted the efficiency of its automation technology, the strain of the pandemic and the unprecedented hike in the demand for deliveries exposed the flaws of its system. The decisions made by Jeff Bezos and his consumer chief, Dave Clark, were also reviewed to reveal where mistakes were made. When coronavirus-related deaths rose to an all-time high in mid-2020, Governor Andrew Cuomo shut down the state to curtail the spread. So many residents had to rely on the services of delivery companies to get essential supplies. Amazon's only fulfillment center in New York, JFK 8, bore the brunt of the increased demand. JFK 8 achieved the near impossible by meeting the demand of New York's teeming population. Beyond that, the company was a lifesaver because it absorbed the workers laid off by multiple sectors. In JFK 8, there were bartenders, dancers, hotel workers, and workers from every industry you can think of. People who lost their jobs found work at JFK 8, and they were paid $18 an hour, which is above the minimum wage. JFK 8 broke shipping records, so much so that it made 3 years' worth of estimated profit in 1 year. The success and speed of its service delivery were a testament to the skill and vision of Jeff Bezos and his management team. By relying on intuition, fantastic management, and technology, they were able to meet the demands of customers. But there were problems. Despite the intuitive features of Amazon's technology, there was still a huge reliance on the employees to get work done. Employees had to perform different roles, sometimes simultaneously. In many cases, they had to work as caseworkers, interviewers, record analysts, and many other roles. Failure to meet up with work targets led to firings and withheld benefits. Communication pipelines were also limited, and who bore the brunt of all the flaws? You guessed right. The workers at JFK 8. Top bosses tried to adopt a more lenient approach to dealing with staff, but there were times when they went against the approach. Sometimes workers were asked to take some time off, only to be recalled at short notice or forced to do mandatory overtime. The system also had its own flaws too. In some cases, bosses offered employees personal leaves only for the system handling the filings to jam. This caused a lot of job abandonment and short-term notices which workers had to scramble to meet. As the virus took its toll, particularly in New York, employee absences soared, leading to shipping disruptions. To make matters worse, employees were left in the dark about the death tolls and hospitalization rates. The reason why management did not reveal this information to workers was obvious. They didn't want them to worry about the virus because that would affect their performance. Amazon said it was disclosing the figures as they came through, but this was not the case. The company kept tracking workers' shifts and had penalties in place to punish workers who did not meet their targets with little recourse to their health or welfare. This situation caused a lot of frustration among employees, not just in New York, but across the country. A case in quote was the protest led by black employees, which led to a failed unionization vote in Alabama. To be fair, at some point, Amazon stopped firing employees who delivered low output, but this information was not passed on to workers at New York's JFK 8. So many workers carried on with the fear that they would be fired if they did not meet the set target. When many other companies and industries were laying off workers in their thousands, Amazon was hiring in thousands. Between the months of July to October, Amazon hired 350,000 new workers. Many of the new recruits were hired through one-on-one interviews, computer screenings, and personal vetting. And guess how long the recruitment process lasted? Just a couple of weeks. But in reality, Amazon's employment numbers were already on the rise even before COVID-19 struck. From the start of 2020 till the end, Amazon only lost 3% of its hourly staff every week, and its employee turnover was about 150%. This rate was 2 or 3 times the turnover rate recorded in many other industries, especially in other retail and logistics establishments. To draw conclusions about the inner workings of Amazon's employment machinery, researchers interviewed more than 200 former and current employees. The interviews went far beyond the JFK 8 warehouse to other warehouses in other states. The investigative researchers also reviewed company documents, government records, and feedback from employee warehouse boards, and overall, the general consensus was that the work culture was less than ideal. In light of the criticism that greeted the New York Times report, Jeff Bezos acknowledged the challenges that Amazon has to go through, but stated that he was proud of his company's performance during the period under review. He highlighted Amazon's ability to pay workers above minimum wage during the troubled period caused by COVID. He also claimed that his company conducted internal surveys to gauge worker satisfaction and to build a healthier relationship between management and staff. What was even more telling was that Amazon acknowledged that it had engaged in inadvertent firings which led to job losses and intermittent leaves. However, the company refused to give a clear number of workers fired during the period. Rather, the argument they put forward was that many of the people interviewed for the article had no work relationship with Amazon, and so therefore their remarks were inaccurate. Reacting to Amazon's position on the issue, several of its executives who designed the company's systems and still call themselves loyalists of the company are of the opinion that high turnover and productivity pressure were a direct consequence of Amazon's decision to scale up operations. Nonetheless, the general consensus is that the critical issues noticed in 2020 were too terrible to ignore. One of the biggest criticisms labeled against big business is in the way they treat employees and how their operations affect the environment. In Amazon's case, tales of unfriendly work environments were to be expected for a company operating on such a massive scale. With an extensive operation line, managing the expectations of every employee was always going to be a Herculean task. But that is not the main issue, though. The main issue is that big businesses like Amazon tend to relegate the health and safety of workers to the background in pursuit of profit. This is an ever-present reality in large warehouses, factories, and work sites as big corporations continually violate workers' rights. Sadly, though, the government has not been able to protect the interests of workers as they should. Until Amazon does a thorough review of its HR policy and addresses the problem areas in its policy, it will continue to remain in the firing line as social activists keep pointing out its flaws. Amazon has an extensive employee base, and in this video, we have been able to address the prevailing issues. Do you think Amazon will be able to correct these flaws and become a better establishment for workers to thrive? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to receive our latest notifications. Thanks for watching.